Dr. Faffa, where does the name Famacha come from?
The name Famacha stands for the Faffa Malan chart, and it was given to the system. It's a system by Professor Gareth Bath from the University of Pretoria, the veterinary faculty.
And why was it developed?
I will tell you the history. We had been working on a farm near Badplaas, and this was an exceptional good sheep farmer. It was on a Kikuyu pastures where these sheep were, and the anthelmintics didn't work anymore. There was only one group that still could control wireworm on this farm. And then we thought, and his name was Cliff Wessels, that we are going to try something. I'd been working in the Kruger Park with zebras, and we found up to 124 million worms in these zebras. And they're always fat. So there came the idea, why are they fat? And the idea came that through the ages, they developed immunity or resistance, name it what you want, with the parasite. So in nature, it says survival of the fittest. So those zebras that couldn't survive with the parasites were taken out by the predators, by the lions. And then we had the idea, let's look whether we can find sheep like the zebras on his farm. So what did we do? Hemoncus, wireworm are bloodsuckers. So if you look at the mucous membrane color of the eye, we came and we saw that there were sheep that had been red, but we also found pink ones and white ones. So we came to the conclusion the white ones couldn't survive with the worms, the bloodsucker. So we had to play the part of the lion. In the past, we dosed those sheep. Instead of being lions, we were nurses. So we went against nature. So that's where the idea came, let's look at the eye color. Now you can think there were about 500 sheep, and we didn't have these modern technology. We still had the films in the cameras. So we took blood from each animal on that farm regularly, and we took photographs of the eye color with the numbers of the sheep, and the blood we had to swing out and to see what the hematocrit is. That's the amount of red cells. You also go to the doctor and they take your hematocrit. And we also took some dung samples to see what is in the dung, the egg counts, that you can correlate with the parasite that's in the milk stomach. So we took hundreds of photos. And also for the developer, my secretary, she had red nail polish on her nails so that we could correlate it and tell the developer that's the real color that the processing of the film, that picture should be. So that's where it started. That was in 1989. And we worked, and I got also my friends, my colleagues, who came into this project. Jan van Wyk, who is a real researcher, and Professor Gareth Bath, who had the idea of developing a chart or something that we could give to the farmer, where he could then look at this chart and correlate it with the eye color. So this Famacha chart that we have now, we first had the prototype. The first chart came out around about 2000. It was a big chart, and it wasn't so easy to handle. with the sheep in the crush pen. And then we developed a smaller chart, which is now all over the world. So the Famacha system is part of a holistic parasite management system. It's actually just an anemia chart. So there are parasites that suck blood. We must remember that liver fluke also causes anemia, and there are other conditions. So you've got to look at the whole picture. And then later on, Professor Gareth Bath came with the idea with the 5-point check, which include all the other internal parasites. So we look these days at 5 things. So the first that we look at is the nose. There are certain parasites and conditions that affect this area. And then we looked at the eye color, and then also at bottle jaw. And then we look at the condition score. We can weigh the animals, but we also look at DAG score. That's animals that's got diarrhea. And that covers all the internal parasites.
So do I understand it correctly that you are actually, your final aim is to be selecting animals genetically that have a genetic resistance?
Exactly.
So within a population of sheep, how many percentage-wise animals are there that are resistant, that have got natural resistance to internal parasites?
Exactly what you're saying. We get adapted animals that can live with the worms. That is nature. They live with the worms. But then we also get resistance. That means there are only a few parasites. And it can also work with ticks. So we select animals. So the main thing is, if you start with a system, it's about, you must remember, 20% of the animals have 80% of the total parasites, roughly. So if you start, and we've seen this under field conditions, that about 10% of animals, you will see that they can't survive with the parasite. They show symptoms, you must mark them. And now, you must be the lion. Take them out of the herd. Fatten them. As we say, sell them to your neighbor. No, put them in the feedlot and cull them. And you will see after a few years, about 5 years, you will hardly have to dose your animals. Miracles will happen on your farm. And we've got lots of farmers to tell you stories and to prove this. We've got this Robbie Blaine down in Stutterheim, which we had also this program on landbouwekelijks. To me, he has gone further than we've gone with Dr. Alan Fisher, that they've got a whole protocol that they first do the Famacha with your young animals. So look after your young animals till they weaned, and thereafter you do the Famacha system, and then your ram lambs, do additional fecal air count, because they are 50% of the genetic material. So you select them firstly on the Famacha, and then you do additional fecal air count. Those with the low fecal air numbers, they are your best rams. And they've done a lot of work. They looked at wool, the microns, they looked at the mass that they pick up, and there's no negative correlation, genetic correlation. And they are his top rams. So it's been proven. And then worldwide, we look at our American friends, Dr. Ray Kaplan and his colleagues. They've trained over 30,000 farmers in the US. And if you see on the Famacha chart, it's in Mandarin, and it's in the eastern countries, it's in Europe. And I listened just now about the global warming. It's the hottest June we've ever had. And this parasite, Haemonchus, likes warm weather and high humidity. So we see that more and more people are ordering Famacha charts and training throughout the world.
Doc, tell me, how heritable is this quality within
Now,
animals?
this is a good question. Everybody asks this. And I've spoken to Dr. Jan van Wyk, and there's a trial that's been done with goats, and it's about 0.41. That's very high. I would say a lot of work has been done, but it varies from flock to flock. But it's around about 0.25 to 0.3. But there are different studies that have been done. So yeah, just start with your replacement ewes, replacement rams. Now people ask me, yeah, they've got 5,000 sheep on the farm. What should you do? Take a group, mark them, and that is your sentinels, or those that you work with, and you can also see what is happening in your herd. But if you bring in a huge flock, a large flock, take those that are lingering behind, the last 50, put them in the crush pen and go through the system and see what's happening. The other thing that we use this chart for is to see whether your dose is working. So you look at your animals, they are whitish, pinkish, treat them, but mark them with the group and write it down and look after 10 days and see whether they've changed color. Remember, you've still got the last sign, and that is bottle jaw. If your bottle jaws don't disappear after dosing,
You still got worms.
you've got resistance on the farm to your anthelmintics.
So tell me, what is the value of the system? I mean, against the backdrop of increasing resistance to veterinary medicines?
Well, the value is that we can't just rely on drugs. It's costing more and more to develop drugs, and we're not getting new drugs. So we've got to look after the drugs that we have at the moment, 11 groups. The other thing is farmers will dose much less, and that's a saving.
Hard saving.
A large saving. And the other thing is, if you start doing the system, you are looking at your sheep and you pick up other things like blue tongue and foot rot, and it's an initiative. The main thing is keep it simple, and anybody that can't read can do the system. So it's a practical system that anybody can use.
So I assume that being such a practical system, there must be every range of farmer would most likely be using the system because it's easy to use, it's simple, and it's applicable across from big commercial guys to small subsistence farmers.
Exactly. And that is the miracle. It's farming with nature. Nature is never wrong.
Yeah.
Never.
So tell me, Doc, how many farmers are there across the world? I mean, do you have an estimate of how many farmers using it?
I really don't know. Professor Barth supplies these charts. But what we want is that farmers get training. Because if it's used wrong, it's just part of a holistic parasite management. And we've started a group now in South Africa. We call it SIMPLE, Sustainable Integrated Management of Parasites in Livestock. Because we've got such a problem with resistance. We've got to fight back. And these parasites are so clever. We'll never get rid of them. So I would plead for the future of sustainable farming with sheep, that everybody should get involved. It's such a simple system.
Tell me, Doc, just a last question. Are there any improvements that you're doing to the system, or is this system as it's been developed now, is it ready to go?
Well, it's not ready to go. It's there.
It's gone.
it's gone. And you can go to a website, www.wormx.info. That's the American website that I told you about. And you will see what they've done. I think what will happen in future, because people want to go into technology, that maybe, I know there are people working on that they would like a sensor or something in your hand that you will just put it on the eye and it will tell you
immediately,
electronically what's happening. It's difficult because if you look at the eye color, some animals, you have to look at the blood vessels. But I spoke to Dr. Jan van Wyk just now. There are a lot of people that are not using the chart anymore. So they are so into this that they can just red, pink, white, you just see it. If you walk behind a group of youths, you can look at the vulvar area and you can just see it's whitish, or you learn. I joke with the farmers and say the sheep get so trained, they go into the crush pen and they open their eyes and you can just have a look at it. But they become tame because you're working with them.
Doc, congratulations on a wonderful system, and for the contribution it's made to sustainable livestock farming. And we hope that technology refines it to the point where it's easy applicable, and let's hope the sheep keep opening their eyes when they get into the crush pen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.